Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Leader Tree. I'm your host, Chris Miller, and today we're talking about something very cool. We're talking about the psychology of dressing. And no, I don't mean salad dressings. I'm talking about getting dressed for work. Because there is a psychology behind it. There is a very specific reason why we do it. All right, there's a phrase I'm sure everybody's heard during their lifetime, and that is dress for success. Well, where did that phrase come from? How did it originate? Why do we dress for work? Why do uniforms exist? That's what we're going to talk about tonight, because there's a very specific purpose for it. In addition to the way that your mind works on a subconscious level, everybody else's mind is also working on a subconscious level in reaction to the dress that you have. Okay. So let's get right into it, because tonight's episode is going to be full of fun. So the psychology of dressing. When you get up in the morning, you need to get dressed for work. Okay. Now, if you work from home, a lot of times people neglect to do that. They'll just get out of bed, they'll go have some breakfast, and then they'll head into their office and start working. And, you know, there's an old adage, you can work from your pajamas. Okay, well, yeah, you can. But when you do that, sometimes you're going to notice that your productivity isn't going to be as high as when you have taken the time to get your shower, you know, brush your teeth, do all those things, and get dressed for work. And the reason why that is because when you do those things, you're signaling to your subconscious mind, you're signaling to your brain, okay, it's time to get to business, right? It's time to get up and get moving, all right? So that starts the process for your mind to prepare itself for the day ahead. When you skip those things, you're in another space still, right? You're in downtime mode still, as far as your brain is concerned, as far as your subconscious is concerned. And so it gets a little bit more difficult to get to work sometimes. Now, this isn't true in every case, but in a lot of cases, this is a fact. So when it comes down to it, the first thing you need to do before you go to work, get up, take your shower, shave if you got to shave, do your hair if you got to do your hair, and get dressed for work. Now, you want to dress in something that is going to make you feel like you're ready to work. Now, for some people, that means, a dress shirt and tie. For some people, it means, a specific type of shirt and a specific pair of pants. Such as a uniform. It could mean a uniform. If you're working from home, it doesn't usually mean a uniform. If you're working for, some sort of company, it could mean a uniform, right? I was an outdoor salesman for most of my life. So for me, my uniform was suit and tie, and that's what I know. So when I get dressed for work in the mornings, I put on my dress shirt, I put on my tie, and I like to put on bow ties a lot of times because I think that it's a dying art, and you should bring that back. So people don't even know how to tie bow ties anymore, and they just get these clip-ons, and I find that wrong. I find that wrong. Take the time, if you're a gentleman, to learn how to tie a bow tie. Just because you should, right? Let's keep that art alive. One day, you're going to go to a wedding or something where you're going to need it, and it'll be nice to know that you know how to tie one. If you can take the time to learn how to tie a necktie, there's no reason you can't take the time to learn how to tie a bow tie. That's my mentality on it. But anyway, so let me tell you about what happens when you get dressed for work, okay? So you get dressed, and your brain changes, your mode changes, your mood changes, everything changes, and it does so quite suddenly, right? Like you start thinking in work terms. right? You start thinking about the things you got to do today. You start thinking about, and those things just automatically happen. Why? Because you've signaled to your brain, it's time to get to work. It's time to start my day. And so these things happen automatically in response to what you're doing. Okay? And it's very cool. So then when you get there and you get into your little office and you shut your door, you're ready to move, man. You're ready to get down to it. You pick up that phone, you start making some calls, you start answering emails, you just get to work, right? The things you got to do, you're on point, all right? When you don't take the time to get up and get to work, you move slower, and it's not your fault. You move slower because on a subconscious level, your brain ain't ready for work. It's just not there. It's thinking downtime because you've got to take the time to signal it. Now, once you start working, you'll get into that mode no matter what you're wearing. I've got friends of mine that say they don't believe that it's important to dress for work. Well, maybe for them it's not, because like I said, it's not the same for everybody. But for a great majority, these things that I'm telling you hold true. Now let's talk about other people's reactions, okay? So let's say, for example, the clothes that you wear, first of all, the clothes that you wear have an impact on those you speak with, okay? They tell those people on a first meeting. Now, people that you've known for years, obviously, it doesn't really matter to them as much. But for people that you're just meeting, let's say, for example, you're in sales, right? And you go out on a sales call and you're meeting with a new prospect. He's going to make a determination of you based on strictly superficial information. Why? Because he doesn't know you. He doesn't know anything about you. He doesn't know anything about you. Doesn't know anything about what you're selling. He's just going to make a determination about you based on what he sees. So if you show up and your hair's a mess and you're wearing a pair of cargo shorts and a t-shirt and you start talking business with this guy, he's going to probably blow you off instantly, right? Because he's like, who are you? I don't got time for you, right? But if you show up and you look nice and you dress properly, right? Now you come to him and he's going to give you a little bit more time. How much time depends on what you're going to say. But he's going to give you a little bit more time because he's going to automatically respect you a little bit more as far as what it is that you are there to talk to him about. The reason for that is because in his mind, on the subconscious level, he's now thinking that you're somebody of authority in whatever field you're in. Automatically. It's a subconscious thing. So his mind is going to tell him to pay attention. All right? This is a direct reaction to nothing more than your appearance. So depending on how your appearance is, that's going to determine it. And I'll give you a good example. We had a guy come into the office once, and he was going to interview for a job. And he walked in the door, dressed like he just rolled out of bed, and decided, I'm going to go for a job interview. I tossed him on his ear. I mean, I didn't even talk to him. I said, hey, you're here for a job interview? He said, yeah. And I said, well, go home and get changed, get dressed like you actually want the job, and then come back and talk to me. Because instantly, I didn't have any respect for him. Instantly, I didn't like him. He could have been the best guy in the world for the job. He never came back. He could have been perfect for the job. But I wouldn't know because he turned me off in the second that he walked through the door because he didn't put any effort into preparing for his job interview. Right? He put no effort into preparing. And if the way I'm looking at it in my mind is if you're not even going to prepare to get the job, you darn sure ain't going to be prepared to do it. Right? So I tossed him out the door. Later, didn't give him another thought until this moment when it just happened to be germane to my conversation here with you today. And that was several years ago. But it did leave a lasting impression on me that the guy had the nerve to do that. So, because here it is several years later, and I still remember that moment, right? So the way you dress impacts other people directly. And I'm going to give you another example. Let's talk about religion. You can automatically identify a religious person, a religious leader, such as, like, say, a priest or a monk or whatever, by the way they dress, right? Why do they do that? Because it establishes a certain look, a certain authority, a certain camaraderie amongst them, and a certain mystery. All of those things are done specifically to elicit a reaction in your mind as the person they're in front of. When the priest gets up, you treat him with more respect. And a lot of priests don't deserve it, to be honest with you. But you do automatically because of the collar, because of the uniform, right? It is one big, and a lot of people that I've said this to over the years, they give me a lot of backlash. So if you have strong feelings about what I'm about to say, then more power to you. I fully understand and support your right to have an opinion one way or the other. But don't hate me just because it is a fact. It's not that religion is wrong. Okay, I believe there's two different things. Okay, I believe in spirituality and I believe in religion. Now, religion is an organized thing, and spirituality is about your connection with God. Okay, so there's two different things going on here. People like to link them, but they're not really linked, because organized religion is really a con. It's really a con. It's designed the way that the Catholic Church does it, the way that most churches do it, right? It's all designed to elicit specific responses from you and to get you to do what they want you to do. So they do it in the concept of spirituality, which is why people link the two together. But really, they're not the same things. And case in point is, let's say, for example, you go to church. They sit you down in these cramped little pews, right? Which don't give you enough leg room to begin with, right? Because they want to make you a little bit uncomfortable. Not too uncomfortable, but a little bit uncomfortable. And it's usually a big giant hallway, a big giant hall that you're in to make you feel a little bit smaller than the grace of God that surrounds you, right? It's not because they want to fit a lot of people in. There's no reason why you need a 40-foot ceiling, right? There's no reason for that. All right? The only reason is to make you feel a little bit smaller. That's why churches operate the way they do. All right? And then you have a podium or you have a raised stage, okay, to put the speaker, the priest, the preacher, whoever they got for that particular religion, they're a little bit higher than you automatically. This elicits the response out of you that you are, that they are a person of authority just because they're there, right? Then they're also at the front of the room. So, plus they're there. So, automatically you're supposed to respect them more just because of that. Then they put them in this uniform. Now, in the priests, let's talk about the Catholic Church, because they're the best ones at doing this, right? Now they've got a robe on, right? A fancy dress robe. And then on top of the robe, now they've got a, I don't remember what they call it. There's an actual term for this thing, but it's like a sash that goes around their neck and hangs down on both sides. I can't remember the name for this thing, but anyway, the point is, the whole thing is to make them the authority, to make them the one to listen to automatically and to start that ball rolling in your mind and elicit the response in your mind that you should do whatever they say. Right? Okay, and that's how a lot of priests get away with doing some things that they shouldn't do, right, over the years. So, it gives them power. And that's the difference between organized religion and spirituality. Spirituality is nothing about, it doesn't have anything to do with power. It's about being connected to each other and about being connected to the world you're in, about being connected to God, right? Right? I'm not a bad Christian because I think that organized religion is a con. I'm a bad Christian if I don't believe in God. You know what I mean? I'm a bad Christian if I am mean to people, you know, and I'm not holding true to the faith that I hold. And I mean, I'm a religious guy. I believe deeply in God. But I do see things from an analytical perspective. And when I look at religion on an organized scale, I don't like the way that I see things being set up because they're not doing it for the protection of God. They're not doing it for the reasons of God. They're just doing it to elicit responses out of my brain and your brain. And that's all about dress. That's the way they dress the buildings. That's the way they dress themselves. That's the way they dress in order to elicit responses. And in the same thing that they're doing there, you're doing when you get dressed for work. You elicit responses in other people's minds just in the way that you dress. It's very interesting stuff. And if you don't agree with me, you don't agree with me, and that's fine. But I just wanted to tell you that this is the way that, and I'm not the only one who's seen it this way, by the way. But this is the way that I see things, and other people have seen them the same way. Take it as you want, you know. Okay, so let's talk about, for just a moment, other uniform types, okay? Other uniform types are designed for the same purpose. They're there to elicit specific responses in you. So let's say, for example, a pest control guy. Pest control guys all dress the same, right? Let's say animal trappers. Animal trappers all dress the same. It doesn't matter where they are. It doesn't matter what the uniform is. It'll all have different things, but they will basically dress the same. Different color schemes, etc., but they're all going to wear the same basic uniform type. Doctors all dress the same. Nurses all dress the same. I mean, they all wear these scrub things, right? And they all dressed appropriately to their particular professions. Lawyers all dress the same. Everybody's got a specific type of uniform, right? Salespeople all dress the same, right? Now, if you're a podcaster, guess what? You've got a uniform too. You may not know it, but you've got what you call your signature look, right? I've got some friends of mine who don't even think they've got a signature look. But when they get on that podcast, they're going to wear a specific hat, or they're going to wear maybe a specific type of hat. They're going to wear a specific type of shirt. You know what I mean? Because that's what they're going to be on camera showing. And they're wanting to look roughly the same. And they're not going to change up what they do. Right? So, they got a uniform too. Even if they don't think of it that way, which a lot of times they don't. They do have a uniform. They have a specific cultivated look that they say, this is what works for me and gets me the responses I want. And that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. On the subconscious mind. Right? And it's something I know a little bit because I'm a certified hypnotherapist. I spent 1.5 years learning about the subconscious science and how your brain works on a subconscious level. Okay? On the subconscious level, the way you dress, you do so for two purposes. To prepare yourself for what you got to get done, and to elicit a specific response in the people that you need to do it with. That's the bottom line on it. That's the bottom line. And that is the psychology behind why we dress. Right? It is the engine that pushes the garment industry, which is huge, you know. Huge industry is the garment industry. I mean, Fashion Week, these things are big money items, right? And they're all designed around people's, for essentially vanity, right? But that vanity comes for a purpose as well, right? Like if you're in the fashion industry, you have to dress a certain way. Otherwise, people won't take you seriously. That just goes to prove what I'm saying, right? They won't even take you seriously. They won't even look at you in certain places. Like you walk into Vogue magazine looking like a schlub, and they're gonna be like, "Do you belong here?" You know what I mean? You walk into anywhere in the wrong place, in the wrong outfit, and people look at you strange, right? The other day, I was going to the hardware store because I needed to get a part because I was fixing a garage door. And I know people don't think that I can do that kind of stuff because, you know, I dress, you know, in suits and stuff like that all the time. So people automatically assume I don't know how to do anything manually labor. I mean, I've built most of the things in my house. You know what I mean? Anyway, I was fixing this garage door. I needed to go to the hardware store and get some supplies. Now, I'd been working on it for about, you know, a couple hours before that, before I needed this one thing. So I didn't look like, you know, I was well put together, right? I was dirty, and I was just wearing an old shirt, an old pair of pants that I was using to work in because I don't mind them getting destroyed, right? And I was coming out of the hardware store, and I rolled over to the gas station, right? And then I got gas. And then while I was there at the gas station, I got a phone call that said I needed to pick something up. So I had to go to a crafting store, right? So there's a big national chain crafting store near me. So I'm not dressed for that like I am for these other two locations, right? So when I went to the hardware store, nobody gave me a second look, right? Because, you know, people are working, people are hot and sweaty, and they don't look like much. They look like hell when they go in there all the time because they need that one last thing to get this done. People go to the gas station, they look like hell all the time. It's not a big deal to anybody. But when I went into this crafting store, most of the people in that crafting store now, they come in, they're well put together. They haven't really done much. Most of them are pale-skinned people that never leave their house anyway. But anyway, they didn't look like I did at that particular point, is my point that I'm making. And they profiled me, right? They straight profiled me. They looked at me, and everybody in the store looked at me as I was going by like, what the hell? You know what I mean? And that's how different I didn't look bad. I mean, I didn't look like, you know, I crawled out of the sewer or anything, but I didn't match. I didn't look the same as they did. And that was the big key. And so people were looking at me. They were watching me to see if I was going to steal something, most likely. And I even saw the security guy. Following me around a little bit. You know, he tried to act like he wasn't following me around, but he kept showing up in my corner vision, right? From this aisle to that, while I was trying to find what it is I was looking for. Why did that happen? In a store that I've been to a whole bunch of times, because it's right around the corner from my house. Why did that happen? Because of the way I was dressed. It's as simple as that, folks. So, where does the old adage, dress for success, come from? Because of the mentality associated with it. This is a simple concept. And I don't care what your job is. You've got a uniform, most likely. You've got an item of dress, a style of dress that you've adopted that says it's time to go to work. And it will change your mindset. So, some people tell me, they don't believe in dressing to go to work. And I would tell them that you may be still productive, but you're going to start a little slower than you would have if you'd gotten dressed for work. If you put your mind in the right space, you're going to get more done up front instead of having to get into it. You're going to be in it by the time you get there. You know? And so these things are important to note. Dress for success means not just dress to impress others. It means to put your mind in the right frame so that you can get down to work. It also means to put other people's mind in the right frame when you come to talk to them, that you're coming to talk to them and you mean business, right? Some people dress down for success, right? Because it puts more people at ease. I know a guy who, when I was a door-to-door salesman way back in the early days, I had 2 frame of references to go off of. The majority said, don't dress too nicely, because then people think you've got too much money and they don't need to buy anything from you. So if you don't dress too nicely, people think that they got to help you out. So they'll buy from you. That was one mentality. The other mentality is show your wealth. Show that you're doing well. And people will buy from you because they think you know what you're talking about. Which one is right? Which one is wrong? I couldn't tell you the answer to that, folks. Because I've tried it both ways. And both ways had the exact same result. But here's what I will tell you. You elicit different responses. And people reacted to me in different ways based on the 2 ways that I dressed. So when I dressed nicely but not too nicely, people were more at ease. People were more relaxed when they were dealing with me. They still bought from me. I don't think they bought because they felt sorry for me. I think they bought because they were convinced that it was the right thing for them. When I dressed, for lack of a better term, rich, with my $500 pen and my Rolex on my arm and things like that, people gave me a little bit more respect, and they also were a little bit more reserved around me than without being, than before. They still bought from me. Obviously not because they felt sorry for me, but again, because they felt like what I had to say had some importance to it and it was the right thing for them. Either way, I still got the same result, but I did it with different reactions coming from the prospect I was working with. Dressing down made them a little bit more relaxed. Dressing up made them a little bit more reverent, I guess. So think about these things as you dress and see which ones are going to work best for you and make your decisions as you go. That's all I have, folks. This has been a fun show for me. I hope you learned something. Don't take offense to anything I said about religion. I love religion, but it's all about the way we dress. All right? Until later, I am Chris Miller for the Leader Tree, reminding you to always keep smiling. Bye-bye.